It is the 18th day of my journey. We set sail in the late spring when the winter let loose its grip on the ice that held our ship caged. We had spent long and cruel winter on the Shards, a truly lonely and frozen land far up north. The ship lanes were clear of ice, but now I know how the storm waters got its name. I have never seen storms as fierce as the ones thundering above us now. The sea voyage has its dangers, but it's still much faster than taking the northern trading route home to Northampton. I have a deep yearning for home. I'm no longer the young adventurer I used to be. My bones ache from the cold weather, and I find myself often dreaming of a warm fireplace and the comfortable halls of the Royal Library. Alarast. Hello everyone, this is Legend of Grimrock 2. Man, I cannot believe this is already out. I've been shying away from development stories of this game for a long while. I became a big fan of the first Legend of Grimrock, and I have always known that as soon as this thing came out, I had to play through it. If you're not familiar with these games, they are modern, as in this just came out, dungeon crawling games inspired very much by old series like the original Might and Magic. So I don't mean Heroes of Might and Magic, which is still going strong, but more the now dead RPG dungeon crawling games where you play with a first person perspective in control of a team of 4. They are so fun! The last game was a huge nostalgia kick for me, and this has just taken everything that was and improved on it 10 times. The story here is largely new, so you do not need to know anything about the previous game, but that won't stop me talking about it. So anyway, this is the main menu. We get a few options. Mostly we're only interested right now in new game. So you get 3 difficulty modes. You got normal, hard, or easy. These games are brutal if you were to enable all of the options here. Personally, I will be playing on normal mode until perhaps a fair bit later. But we get these various options. Number 1 is to create characters, which we absolutely do want to do. This will stop us loading in with a default party, and we get to choose a lot of RPG things. And then we have these 3 modes here. Old school mode turns off the in-game map, so you get this really classic experience of getting grid paper out, IRL, your pens, your pencils, and as you explore the world, as you explore dungeons, physically jotting down where you are so you don't get lost, so that you can remember secrets, places of interest, and perhaps come back to later, try and figure out secrets within the game. Personally, we will be playing with the in-game map. There is also Iron Man mode. This will mean you can only save when you find specific checkpoints around the world, and then single-use crystals means you only get to use those checkpoints once. Needless to say, if you were to enable all of this and play on hard, you're in for a hell of an experience the first time through. I mean, if you want to be that hardcore, be my guest, but we're just going to be playing on normal, and we're going to create our own characters. Character create is huge, and just like when I was playing the previous game, what I'll do is go through and create my guys here, but I won't show it until a little bit later so we can get straight in the game. So, through the use of movie magic, I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, I'm back. So I've made my team. I don't want to linger on this screen for too long, but these are the people I have now got. If you're unfamiliar, in Grimrock 2, you can choose from a wide variety of different team compositions, races, classes. I will run you guys through them. So first of all, I have Jonker, the Minotaur. Minotaurs are really tough kind of characters. I'll explain more as we go further through. And he's going to be one of my big frontline fighters. That's his class. In this game, also, each of your characters gets traits. And these traits will impact the way they level and the kind of things that they can do. So I gave, because this guy's a Minotaur, he gets a unique Minotaur-only trait, if you want it, called Headhunter, which increases his strength for all the skulls you find around the world and carry with you, which is very cool. So I've got that. I've also got Muscular, which is just a flat boost to one of our attributes, which basically just means we'll hit more damage. The second character in my group is Loto Pafo, the Lizard Man. So lizard men are an interesting race in that they are very well suited as rogues. They are social outcasts and mistrusted by other races because of our capricious and deceitful natures. What they lack in social skills, they greatly make up for in stealth and dexterity. So yeah, this guy is going to be my rogue. He's going to be out there on the front line. He's going to be very evasive. He's going to do lots of big critical damage and hit people from behind and do all this stealthy, awesome stuff. The third member of the group is this ratling named Tikrit. Now, ratlings are a new race for Grimrock 2. They didn't exist in the first game. So as a ratling, you may seem weak and disease-ridden on the surface, but you are actually one of the most adaptable and hardy creatures in the world. You're a hoarder by nature and greatly enjoy fiddling with mechanical contraptions. And his class here, this should be pretty interesting, is a farmer. So there are a couple of new classes in this game. Farmer was the most recently revealed. Basically, on launch day, they revealed it was a thing. A couple of the other new ones are Barbarian, Battle Mage, and Knight, I believe. But Farmer is also a totally new class, okay? As a farmer, you do not command great powers and you do not know how to wield a sword. Instead, you are familiar with digging ditches for irrigation and the growth cycles of pitroot plants. Basically, everything a successful adventurer would ever need. So, yeah, I'm going to have a rat man in my team who is a farmer. One of the main perks of being a farmer, apparently, is that instead of slaying monsters to gain experience, farmers gain experience by eating food. No idea how this will go. Lastly, I have the drunk human. You gotta have a human in a game like this, Sanon. And so this guy is my wizard. He's going to be standing in the back line doing wizardy things. I could, of course, have also chosen an insectoid here. Insectoid is the last race I'm not using in this playthrough. And as an insectoid, our thoughts would be completely alien to other races. Your knowledge of the arcane is unrivaled. Insectoids come in many shapes and sizes, but most often their bodies are covered with a thick shell. And so as a human, I've given him both the human traits, which means he gets an extra skill point at the first level. So he got to spend 3. And I have made him a fast learner, so he gets experience a bit quicker than the others too. The ratling here, Tikrit, he actually, because he's a farmer, doesn't get any skill points at the start of the game, so he's going to be kind of useless for a while, but we'll see. Oh, I'm so excited. There's so much new stuff I'm playing with here. And that's pretty much it. That's character creation. We'll talk about more stuff later. Let's start the game. Oh, there we go. Legend of Grimrock 2. It's a bit of a miracle we survived there. The whole boat crashes onto the island, and we manage to get away despite the fact we're caged up, and the cage just so happens to float. Fair enough. Here we go. We are in control. So the plot of the previous game was that we were prisoners. Now, the game is played from a first-person perspective, so here I am, like, I'm actually in the cave looking around. And I'm actually controlling all 4 of my guys that I made a character creation all at once. Now, the story before was that we were all shackled at our ankles together because we were prisoners. We were thrown in this big dungeon, and I like to think that that's the same story here, so this is why we all move as, like, one big unit, almost. But we are prisoners, and we're still in this cage. There's going to be a lot of puzzles in the game. I'll be able to talk you guys through them easily enough. Lots of massive secrets too, but I guess we've just got to start by getting out of the cage. The best way to do that is by picking up this branch you can see nearby and equipping it onto one of your characters. So down here on the bottom right, you'll see all of these open hands. Now, these are the things that my characters are wielding. They have lots of equipment, but they're going to have 2 things primarily that they're holding. So if I drag this stick we found on the floor here, and drag it into someone's hand, this now means that the Minotaur, Jonker is now holding this stick, and he may be able to do something with it. Like, for example, if we now click the stick in his hand, we can smash the gate open, and we are free to escape. And we are on the island of Nex here. The island of Nex is actually a place that existed in the Grimrock story before this game even came out. A lot of people don't know about it, but there was actually a world map released with the first game that no one really looked at because it was buried in your installation files under a folder called Extras. And so looking at that map now that the second game has come out, you can sort of see where we are in relation to the events of the previous game. And you'll see as we pick up items, they're referencing various areas nearby in the world, and you can use that map to see what's going on. Anyway, so we're out on the beach. What do we even want to do? I guess we're just trying to survive, right? We want to go home, but as you can see out there, our ship is completely wrecked. They have really gone all out with the environments in this game. It looks so much better than the previous one, which was entirely indoors. Now, of course, we get to play a game where we're outside too. And some people kind of question how that would work. How can you have a game that's basically played on a grid? You know, we're moving on very set patterns and movements here. How can that work when you're outside and exploring the general world? But it's felt natural to me as long as I've been playing it so far. This is not a blind run through. I already know what's coming before we get there. I prefer to do things that way. This way we can actually show off all the secrets and all the cool hidden stuff, get some really amazing gear that maybe other people are going to be missing. Here you'll notice I'm just picking up stuff as I travel around on the beach. We can now smash our way through grasses. Like, for example, here I can't move past. As long as we keep smashing our way through, we can actually break our way into places. And here's the first enemy of the game. This guy's a sneaky little turtle guy. I do want to take my time with a lot of stuff, but I also want this first episode to get us through like the first main section of the game, because it's amazing what happens at the end. I remember in the previous LP I was trying to complete the first floor of the dungeon in the first episode. I can't remember whether I actually managed to do it or not, but this has got such like an epic ending. I feel like I absolutely have to. So we're just going to keep killing stuff. We've already gathered quite a few items, and now we come to a gate that's locked. So how do we progress? Well, over here on the right, there does seem to be this scary-looking pedestal. If we click it, you'll find it's actually a button that opens the gate up with another turtle waiting for us on the other side. So we'll try and deal with him. Earlier in the first room, I actually picked up this thing here, which I put into Tikrit's hand here. Tikrit's holding this rock, and rocks are weapons you can throw. So this will leave his hand when I do it, but I could attack this guy from range, like so. Now, he's charged me, but, you know, if he hadn't done that, I could at least start hitting him without him being in range of me. So there are various spells you can cast in the game. Things like guns, bows, arrows, crossbows, slingshots, all kinds of stuff you can use to try and attack people. We do also, of course, have our drunken mage here, Sanon, but Sanon, in theory, wouldn't know any spells right now. So to try and keep the run looking kind of legit, I'm not going to start casting spells instantly. Now, if you as a player know how to cast spells in the game, you could just do that straight away, as long as your mage has got like the levels, the prerequisite levels. So I've made him a fire mage, remember, from the character creator. So I could start casting a fire spell right now, but since we haven't found the scroll, I'm going to decide not to do that. So we'll beat up this turtle here. Nothing too difficult. And you notice everyone's dropping a lot of stuff. So I'll show you guys our inventory. Here we got a turtle egg. And we're also getting some turtle steak. So let's have a look at what we've got. To start the game, we found this branch which we broke out of the cage with. We found some torn breeches. When I start running around in these games, I like to put all of the clothes and stuff I find straight away onto my frontline guys. You see, these two characters at the top here, these people are considered as in front in our like block of 4 players who are walking around. And so if we're getting attacked by turtles, you'll notice that only these front 2 guys are actually taking any damage. That's important. It means that these people at the back can't hit anyone with melee weapons, but they are largely safe. And so it's best to really get your clothes and so forth on the people on front. I kind of wanted to have another enemy here to fight to demonstrate that to you guys, but apparently there are none of them around. So anyway, yeah, we got some torn breeches here. We also found turtle steak. This is actually pretty nice food. You'll see that it's got nutrition on it, and every character as you play through this game will slowly get hungry. If you get hungry, this can stop you being able to regenerate your health, and depending on the options you chose when you made the game, could eventually cause a game over because you've got too hungry, you're starving to death, and you end up dying. You can't beat certain enemies. So you need to find food and be careful with what kind of food you eat and when. You need to ration it. See up here, my Minotaur? It says food here. It says, all actions you do consume food. The bar turns yellow when you're hungry, and there are no penalties at this stage. If you're starving, the bar turns red and you don't regain health or energy. So we want to be careful of this. Now, my Minotaur, Jonker gets much hungrier than the other people in the team. Jonker has got loads of health. Look, he's got 95 health compared to this guy who's only got 55. So Jonker, because he's so big, needs a lot of food to keep himself going, and he's going to be eating a lot more than everyone else. You see, this guy is actually not quite as hungry, and Tikrit down here is even less hungry. So this is something we need to be paying attention to. And a lot of the loot that we get while we're starting off here will be stuff like turtle steak. It will be food. I like to pick a member of the team and just make them like my pack rat, and they're just going to have all of the food. And I guess for this playthrough, it makes very sense that Tikrit will be that guy, right? So I've given him here this horned fruit as well. It's got the description that this fruit has a very strong stinging taste and is commonly found in the southern islands. They're covered with needle-like spikes that can easily pierce the skin and cause an irritating rash. Well, that doesn't sound very good, does it? It doesn't sound like we're in a very hospitable place. And aside from that, we don't really have much else. We found this bone club, though, which I gave to Loto Pafo here. A makeshift club made from the leg bone of an unknown beast. Maybe some kind of giant turtle? I don't know, that sounds kind of scary, though. There is actually a secret in the game, which I did run past. Don't worry, I do know that it's here. After the very first door that we get through here, if you actually try and swim out into the water, you'll notice you can sneakily come around here and... we find a hidden chest. Chests actually weren't a thing in the previous game, so this is again something new that we can be looking out for. And we'll get some sandals we can equip. We also find some nice smoked sea bass. Someone else prepared before us apparently has been on the island. And a torch. Now torches will be useful for when it gets dark and all the big scary stuff comes out, and we're going to need some light to see our way. Torches were a huge thing in the previous game that was entirely inside the dungeons, but they'll be pretty important here too. So, Tikrit just picked up this thing as well. This is etherweed. This delicate underwater plant is commonly found on shores and riverbeds, and sometimes even in the depths of underground lakes. Etherweed is much sought out for the beautiful blue glow of its buds. We'll be able to create potions and so forth. One of the new classes in this game is the Alchemist. I don't have an Alchemist on my team, but the Alchemist is very adept at creating different kinds of potions. We'll have to see how we can get by without one. I'm sure we'll be okay, though. Here's another rock we just managed to pick up. The more the better, I guess. But now we've got a problem. This door here won't open without a key, it looks like. And we haven't found a key, have we? So we're going to have to go back and explore. You guys might have noticed that there was something of a little cavey looking area around here on the left. And in the corner, you'll see there is actually a key. Now, you'll see there's this lit basin here. This looks very suspicious to me, like it's the kind of thing that there should be a secret associated with it. Maybe much later in the game we'll be able to come back. But for now, we'll just remember it's here, I guess, and see whether maybe it amounts to something in the end. You'll also find, if you look very carefully in this area, there are some throwing darts here. So we can actually give these darts to our mage, who so far hasn't really been able to do anything, because I haven't shown you guys the magic. And now we've got the two guys in the back line can actually contribute in fights. They can throw rocks in these darts as best they can. You know, try and over the heads of our guys in front, and try and hit any turtles that come our way. Which seem like the only enemies so far, which is totally possible to deal with. So here we've got our key. We can just equip this. Open up the gate. The game tells us with a hint that we can open the map using tab. Map is obviously going to be a huge thing. If you chose that option, though, where it wouldn't automatically map, you wouldn't have this available to you. It is very cool though. So this is where we started the game. This square tells you your point of entry. It looks like we did miss a tiny little area there, but there's nothing there, I can promise you guys. And so far this is sort of where we've wormed our way through. You'll notice it automatically mapped out the chest for us we found on the water, and any weird things that were like, oh, what does that do, we can actually mark on our map. So over here I could drag this red X, right, and then I could label it, you know, fire basin. And there we go, now I know forever. That may not be relevant, it may not mean anything, but I can manually drop these notes down. As you see, it's very kind of old school style of design. Alright, so we get sort of our first puzzle of the game, aside from maybe getting out of the cage at the start. There's a door shut here, there's a scary looking boat deep inland there too. But how do we even get through this cave? How do we get out of here? Well, there's 2 pressure pads, and if we stand on one, it doesn't seem to do anything, as you can see here. Well, if we stand on the second one, which we have to walk on the first one to get to, it will actually open the gate. But if we try and walk back to get over, the gate closes. Now, there's no way to jump in this game. There probably is a way to move very quickly in this game. We just won't have it available to us right now. In the previous game, it was this big hidden thing. So how do we get through the gates? Well, I'll let you guys think about that for a second while we grab this loot here. This is a tattered shirt. And now we're going to have this guy nice and geared up. The only thing he's really missing is a helmet, a cloak. Okay, he's missing quite a lot of stuff, to be fair, but he's doing okay. So how do we get through here? Well, one of your first instincts might be to think, right, we should try and weigh the pressure pad down. What if we can weigh this down, and then as we step off of it, this will close the gate again, but it should open again? Ah, no, that doesn't work. Now, weighing down pressure pads is definitely a big thing. I think the first puzzle from the previous game was just something as basic as that. But that's not going to cut it here. So what do we do? Well, I did just tell you guys you can also throw these rocks, right? Like so. You don't have to throw them at enemies. You can throw them around the environment too. So this is a pretty simple puzzle. We just want to throw this rock over there. Hits the pressure pad and we're free to go. There is a small technique you can do here as well, where you basically stand on this, then you place the rock on here to open the gate, and then you grab it again, and that allows you to keep your rock, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Alright, so here we are. This game is a lot more open world than the previous one, I'll say that much. So far it's pretty linear though. We're going to want to deal with these turtles. So here you go, look, we can throw our stuff at them. Just go all out. We really don't have any good gear at the moment. We're just using whatever the hell we can get our hands on. And one cool thing about the game is once you've thrown all of that stuff, you don't have to manually lean down and pick it all back up. It will automatically know what you've thrown and it will dump it back in your inventory. Some more turtle steak here. And we'll kill this guy. And so you'll notice here that Jonker, that's the Minotaur, is taking a little bit more damage than our other guy. But when our other guy gets hit, when Loto Pafo gets hit, he gets chunked a lot further. And that's because Loto is our rogue. He's much more evasive. So we're not going to see his health go down much, but when it does, it will go down substantially. I kind of decided to make a lot of very evasive people in this game, because in the previous game, evasion actually ended up really kind of strong. Even borderline overpowered, in my opinion. I'm sure they fixed that for here, but I'm going to try it out anyway. So, what do we want to do here? Well, you guys might have noticed I skipped over it. Right in front of us, there's a pedestal, and on the pedestal is a letter. So, who do we want to be our reader? I guess we want our human to be the reader. I don't imagine that these guys... maybe Loto Pafo can read, but he just doesn't want to because he's very antisocial. I mean, he's a lizard man. I doubt Jonker can read, maybe very vaguely. And I guess Tikrit can probably read, Tikrit the farmer, but he's too humble for that. So we're going to be listening to the drunk mage. And he says, the letter reads as such. Dear visitor, welcome to my island. I hope your journey was not too detrimental to your health. I think you will find this island to be the most wonderful, yet the most perilous place on Earth. I don't have high hopes about your survival, but maybe you can prove me wrong. Better equip yourself before the night falls. The Island Master.